So today we're going to be talking about colons. Let me just get my pen here. And just as a reminder, a colon looks like this little guy. So the two dots, one on top of the other. And I'm going to start with what I call our essential rule. And so I think it's important to understand that colons can be used for a wide variety of things, and we'll talk about what those are. But our essential and most important rule, especially if we're being tested on something like the ACT, is that a colon can only come after a complete sentence, which we also know we call those independent clauses. So keeping in mind this essential rule, we will be checking for this every single time we see a colon. And the funny thing is, like right here, we do see that colon, but this is not how you will see it used on the ACT. And I think that is one thing that's sort of tough about them, because we have seen them used in a variety of ways. But in formal modern English, and especially in the style choices that the ACT uses, we want to make sure that it is after that independent clause. And we'll look at a few examples. So what is the function of a colon? Whenever I ask my students this, the first thing they always say is a list comes after it. So yeah, it can introduce a list or text. It can give emphasis. Wow, let's see, large H. It can present dialogue, so we see it a lot in books, in articles, and it can clarify composition titles. So it might be introducing like the title of a book or a play or something. So we'll look at a few of the examples. I listened to the thrilling tale closely from start to finish. The power outage, the missing knife, the stranger. So our option is to either keep that comma that's right there with no change. We could change it to a colon, we could change it to a semicolon, or we could move the colon to before the finish and, or rather put the colon before the finish and keep that comma. Our best choice here would be B. Because in this one, just like we pointed out before, we have to look at our essential rule, which is there an independent clause or a complete sentence before the spot that you would put punctuation in. So looking at that, that would be, I listened to the thrilling tale closely from start to finish. Yep, that is an independent clause. So we know that we can have one there. And then we have a list, the power outage, the missing knife, the stranger. Looks great. So we'll use the colon there. So just as a reminder, the semicolon would not work because our semicolon here, we need to have an independent clause on both sides. And here we have independent clause, and then, and we could say dependent clause, but really it's just a list. It's just a fragment. And then we could not have D, so we know C won't work. D would not work because it would not be a complete sentence before the colon, because that would be, I listened to the thrilling tale closely from start to. So that wouldn't work either. The comma here would not work because in this situation, the comma would only work if this were an A positive. And that's not what is happening, because it's not renaming or naming again any other nouns in the sentence. It is introducing a list after a complete sentence. So we'd want to use a colon there. When he vanished, the town officials knew he would be traveling to one of his favorite places in the entire country, Lake Como. So here, our best choice would be A, for no change. So this is not a list here, but rather I would say this could either be, providing emphasis or clarity here. But I would really say that emphasis is what this is providing. So B wouldn't work because for our semicolon, remember, we need two independent clauses on both sides, which we only have one independent clause. A comma would not be our best choice here because we're saying he would be traveling to one of his favorite places in the entire country. So, we know that he has multiple favorite places. We don't know which one this is. So Lake Como is essential information. So it's not a non-essential A positive, as we've talked about in the other videos. And then we couldn't just take away all the punctuation. Officials knew he would be traveling to one of his favorite places in the entire country, Lake Como. We need to have punctuation to help us introduce and emphasize this place or location. So again, the most important thing is to stick to our essential rule with colons, and that'll oftentimes help you rule out really quickly from these answers right here if you see one. If there is a full sentence before the colon, then it can be used, and then you decide whether or not that's the best choice.